Hello and welcome to Santos on Sports. Alongside Chris Santos, I am Paul Santos. Welcome in. So much to talk about today. We're so happy to be sponsored by Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Citywide glass, 3 locations to serve you at 425 State Road in Dartmouth. Additional locations in Fall River and Taunton. Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, where you can enjoy tennis and pickleball and more. And attorney John Seed, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. And you go to his website at johnseedlaw.com. Chris, how are things going over there?
I'm well, Paul. I know we took a little time off, but we're back. We really had to regroup after that Celtics kind of deflated loss. So we needed a little extra week, but it was a good July 4th weekend. I hope yours was good as well. And, we're back on, and nothing more important than a big 4-game series starting tonight at Fenway Park between the Red Sox and their rivals, the New York Yankees.
All right, so what is Chris Santos' assessment? I mean, I'm looking at the Yankees, I'm looking at the Red Sox. The Red Sox are definitely inferior to the Yankees, both in pitching, hitting, power. It doesn't mean that the Red Sox can't knock them off or get a couple of games here, but I got to tell you, just looking at the long haul, great rivalry. You never know what can happen, but I know the Red Sox definitely need some areas to improve if they're really going to try to win in the playoffs.
Well, absolutely. And it's been a terrific start for the New York Yankees. They've been on fire, both pitching and hitting. They've gotten great contributions from everybody out there. They made a couple of pickups as well. Carpenter just showed up. He's playing pretty good for them. And their pitching has stepped up to the forefront besides Garrett Cole to lead them. He's their main ace, obviously. Now they got some guys under him, and they've really done a fine job in the first half of this season. So the Red Sox have their hands full, obviously, with the Yankees team, who's playing well right now. Paul, when you have a 14-game lead right now in the LA, in the American League East, boy, you really have a good first half. And so, the Red Sox have to find a way to do a little damage if they can, not only in this series where it's 4 against the Yankees, then it's 4 at Tampa Bay, and then 3 at New York. So think about that. You're going from Yankees to Tampa, then to New York, and then back home to Toronto. So all those games against the AL East can make a statement if they get on a nice run in those games to say, hey, maybe we can close the gap a little bit or separate themselves from the wild card. So it's going to be interesting, especially starting tonight. As Cole takes the mound for the Yankees, their ace, and just found out that the Yankees will not have Aaron Judge in their lineup with lower body soreness, so he's actually taking the day off.
Well, it's interesting. You talk about making a statement against the AL East. The Red Sox record against the AL East is bad compared to, when they beat up on some of those Western teams that are weaker. At least that's the criticism. Yep. So conversely, you're saying, well, they can make a statement against the Yankees, Tampa Bay, and Toronto. Conversely, if they come up short, they could also get their rear ends kicked and get buried out of that wild card race. So this stretch right here is about as important a stretch of the season that there is.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, they're coming in at 45-37, but they are 9-18 versus the East, which is not very good. They're 21-18 at home, which is uncharacteristic of Boston. Usually they have a better home record, and they really dominate at Fenway Park. And they're 24-19 on the road. So they've had adjustments to make at home. And I think, Paul, for them to be successful, it starts with their pitching staff. Now, remember, Evaldi's been hurt with a back. I believe, as I'm looking at my stats here, I think he's coming back around the 15th. So that's hurt them. That's been their ace. They've had arm issues from Walker. They're not sure what it's with him right now, whether he's going to pitch in this series or they're going to wait and see what the arm develops. And then Rich Hill was a little banged up with a knee, so he's going to not be out until at least the 22nd. So think about that with some of those pitching that they really need. So it's Pivetta at 8-6, Whitlock at 2-1, and Wachowski, who's pitching tonight, at 3-2 against Cole. So it's been kind of the injury bug. And yet you even saw last night, brought up a prospect to see what he could do and what he could get out of it. Yeah, they lost the game, and he was a little wild at times and, just getting his feet worked in his first major league start. So I think the Red Sox, if they need anything, it's that pitching staff to get healthy 1 through 5 and then see how it goes from there. So they got their work cut out for them if they are not healthy with the arms.
If you would like to join the discussion, please do. We always enjoy that. You see the number at the bottom of the screen, 774-762-6234. There it is right there. Give us a call and chat with Chris and I. Not only the Red Sox, talk about anything you want. It's open phone, so if there's something else you want to get off your mind, we just figured we'd start with the Red Sox because of that series against the Yankees. And, Chris was saying that, Aaron Judge is out tonight. Well, that's probably a good thing. I mean, you hate to see a guy with a sore back or whatever it is. 30 home runs for Aaron Judge, 22 for Rizzo, 21 for Giancarlo Stanton. And, like Chris was saying before we went on the air, it is kind of like a modern murderer's row, just guys that can pound the ball and hit the ball out of the park. Conversely, the Red Sox, they're not hitting a lot of home runs. I mean, take a look at J.D. Martinez, who has hit as many as 35, 40 over the last 3-4 years. He's only got 8 right now, so he's on a pace to hit about 16. Not good enough, and then they lost Renfroe during the offseason. He hit 30 home runs. And, the experts, right, the nerds that are out there, they will say that the home run is the most important thing you can have in the lineup. It works into the OPS and you get the launch angle and all this stuff what the nerds have done to our game. But, you see that lineup of the Yankees there, and it's like, wow, plus they have a better pitcher pitching tonight. The Red Sox pitching is banged up a little bit too. So, I don't know, things don't seem like they're lining up too well for the Sox in this series.
Well, let's start with the Yankees first. Let's not forget about Rizzo. They picked up Carpenter, 2 lefties now in the lineup to even add on to their power. Let's not forget about Donaldson, who usually attacks the Red Sox pretty good as well. Hicks is back in there. Gallo can hit the long ball. LeMahieu, who leads off. I mean, this is a very good lineup of New York Yankees team, that's for sure. They can really hit the ball. For the Red Sox, I see it as where they've had a couple of surprises. I think Durant's been a pretty good surprise in center field. Even Ref Snyder coming in, doing some of his job. You got the normals, obviously, with Devers and the X-Man at shortstop to lead their team. Devers is at 327. X-Man's at 314. And, yeah, JD, he's batting 311. He's still hitting and leading the league almost, I think, in doubles. So he does a lot of that good stuff as well. I just don't see it all the way through the lineup, maybe as good as the Yankees are. I think they have more talented, 1 through 9 when you put in all those big guys. So if you got Rizzo in that lineup, you got Judge in that lineup who are both not in, and you put in Stanton and you put in LeMahieu and you put in Donaldson, put all that together. Yeah, I think it's a little bit better than the Red Sox. So for me right now, I think the Yankees pitching staff has brought them to the forefront. Yeah, they're hitting the ball, don't get me wrong, but they've controlled it with their pitching staff as well, and they look sharp on both sides of the ball. So they're talented right now, and they got it going. As long as, Aaron Boone can control this unit and make sure he puts in and moves them lineups and keeps everyone happy, they should go a long way.
All right, we'll keep those comments coming. We got one here from Mikey Kahn. He is saying, good to be able to see your show, but only for a little while because he's officiating 4 games tonight at the BBA. And remember, we said last week they're looking for officials. So he's sharing this and really appreciate that, Mikey Kahn. Steve LaCambria says, let's go Red Sox. And he says the Yankees are really tough because Judge hitting all those home runs. Well, he's not playing tonight. And then Scott Tavera says the Red Sox are doomed, just like the country under Joe Biden. Now, wait a minute. We don't do politics here, but my good friend Scott Tavera slipped something in, so that's okay. We'll let it slide anyway.
Well, it says Santos on sports, not Santos on politics. So we'll slide that one off to the side, and
the next time I'm on WBSM, give me a call because I've been filling in over there, so we can do everything over there. Okay. Yep. Now that we've mentioned that, let's go to the phones. Good afternoon. You're on Santos on Sports.
Hey guys, how's it going? Long time no talk.
Yeah. Nice to hear from you. How are you?
Doing great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Celtics, but I'll say one thing about the Red Sox. I'm expecting an absolute bloodbath this series. Like, they've been absolutely horrible just to start this month after that great stress, like you said on the West Coast. A bunch of our starting pitching is hurt. The hitters are in a slump, and our bullpen seems to have just kind of returned to form. And the Yankees seem to be just a step above everyone. And I just want to say something about the Yankees too. that closer that they have by the name of Clay Holmes, he's been absolutely ridiculous. So I think he's gonna kill us at least a couple of times in this series. But Chris, I kind of want to ask you about the Celtics offseason thus far. I texted Paul a bunch about it earlier.
Sure.
You know, I love the acquisition of Malcolm Brogdon. That was my favorite move. I loved him ever since he was in Milwaukee. He was one of these rare, like, 50% from the floor, 40% from three, and like 90% from the free throw line guys. So it's cool to have a guy like him coming off the bench. And even though Danilo Gallinari doesn't exactly play defense, I do like the fact that, you got a veteran guy who's decent size and can shoot the ball really well, while, Peyton Pritchard is still kind of developing. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree with the Brogdon deal. I really like that. It doesn't mean that he's going to go right out and say, hey, I'm your point guard and I'm going to carry you. I don't think it's like that at all. I think, he's got to work with Smart and a couple of the other guys to worry about. So I think it's a great pickup for him, for them. Gallinari, as you said, not much of the defense part, but what do you really have to do when you have a Robert Williams and you have a couple of other guys other than contain your man on the outside and try to get a hand in his face and so forth? If you get some extra rebounds in that help you, that's great. But he could be like a Ray Allen, just start shooting that ball and really get it off and help out on the offensive side of the ball. So I think it's two guys who will be coming off the bench, but it's a great rotation now with more depth. And I think that's what Udoka really wanted, because I thought we saw in the run that Udoka went to just maybe 6, maybe 7 guys, and he kind of left it alone, and he didn't want to put anybody else in. I think he could maybe change a little bit more and get some more depth and more guys involved in that offense if they make another run and stretch like they did this year.
Yeah, and I will say too, that deal for Brogdon does look like an absolute steal. Just clearing out our bench essentially, guys who didn't really get many minutes anyway, and just another what's probably going to be a late first round pick. I will say though, I do have to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer, because there is just one main concern that I'm kind of scared that they haven't addressed yet. And who's going to be the backup for Rob Williams? Like, I know we still have Al Horford on the roster, but he's getting up there in age, and I feel like he's more of like a power forward anyway. And we brought Luke Cornett back, but I don't really know how good he is. And there's this kid in the summer league who I like, but he's a rookie, so I don't know how much he's really going to contribute on if he even makes the main roster. So I just feel like supposedly the Celtics were in on a guy by the name of Thomas Bryant, who just went to the Lakers. Yeah. But I still feel like we just need to get one more big man just to have some serious depth behind Rob Williams, now that Daniel Tice went into that deal for Brogdon.
Yeah, still plenty of time left. I think they can look it over and maybe still find a free agent out there that kind of fits their build and say, hey, listen, give me this amount of minutes, give me this amount. And again, injuries always becomes pretty big. And when we lost Williams for a while there, then he came back. And I don't think he was ever 100% personally. I hope it now comes out. And that's the thing I got to worry about with Brogdon. He's had some injuries in the past. Got to make sure now if he doesn't carry the main load, maybe he will be healthy throughout the season compared to when he was carrying the main load. And then he did have some injuries with Indiana. So that's going to be interesting to see how he feels during the course of this year and how Udoka uses him time-wise. But yeah, probably another guy out there that they'll go out and get, and they'll find the right guy. I think Brad Stevens has done a good job.
I like it. I like the additions. And, there was some other talk too, and this may have gone by, but there was talk about the availability of KD and whether or not you would make a trade with only a couple of years left on Brown's, contract. And, it was like, wow, would you really do that? Trade for a 34-year-old? I mean, Durant is still probably one of the nastiest players in the league. And if you traded Brown for him, you'd have Durant, you'd have, Tatum, and you'd have Smart as a big three. I mean, who could possibly compete with that, right? Would you, open up that spot and try to win that championship, just by having those guys in there? I mean, Durant, he's got some injuries. He hasn't really played the whole year, but he's unhappy where he is. I mean, what about that? I mean, does anybody think that's a good idea?
I'll let the caller go first on this.
All right, Ryan, what do you think about that one?
I would only do that deal under one condition. And, obviously, the fact that it's Kevin Durant. Like you said, he's one of the nastiest players on the face of the planet right now. So, automatically, I'd love to have him as a Boston Celtic. But there's only on one condition. Supposedly, there's some rumblings of going around now about how, maybe Jaylen Brown feels disrespected ever since he came to Boston. He wants to be a number one guy as opposed to, taking a backseat to Jason Tatum. Like, if he's like just somehow disgruntled about his role here, then I get KD in a heartbeat. Maybe package him and maybe even Marcus Smart in a deal to go get him. But I'd like to try to avoid splitting up this young core as much as humanly possible if Jaylen Brown is committed to staying here.
If your goal is to win the 18th banner in 1 year and you want it now, then okay, it's possible to make that move. But if you're looking for this team to run the long haul and try to go for a while, then I say no to the deal. He'll be 35 probably by the start of that season. He's had a lot of health injuries recently. So it depends on what the organization is really looking for in these next few years. Are we going with this core and we're able to keep all our guys and let it run for a while and see what happens? Or do we want it right now and we got to go get it? And, there's always internal things. We don't know what Brown's thinking. They don't know. And so we can't really respond to that. But, yeah, I have to agree with Ryan about, what are they thinking if Brown's disrespected, or, hey, you know what, I'm tired of being maybe in Tatum's shadow. Maybe I want to be, the number one somewhere too. So it's really tough to say. But if it's me, I don't know. I like the core. I just think you had a couple of pieces and let it roll. I don't like it myself, but, that's just my opinion.
Well, if you're going to make that trade, I got a better one. Why don't you trade Tatum for KD? So then your lineup would be KD, Brown, Smart, Brogdon, and, a couple of other players like this. And, the argument there is, everybody keeps saying how Tatum is better than Brown. Tatum is better than Brown. And I'm watching the games, and there are some nights where Brown is better than Tatum. And Brown was certainly a better clutch guy than Tatum. Tatum always seems to fall short in the clutch. We talked about that a number of times. And in the finals, Brown was way better than Tatum in the finals, right? So, I don't know. I do you think Tatum, Chris, is really a lot better than Brown? Because I'm starting to think that, that area in there shrunk a little bit.
No, I think Tatum can hold his own. And I think Brown holds his own right with Tatum. I wouldn't say, Tatum's this upper echelon and Brown is down here. I think it's pretty close and pretty tight. And either way, it's someone that they can rely on during the game if one is off and the other one can get on, or find a way to work together and keep that intensity and get to know each other for another year and keep the camaraderie, because it's been successful. They're still young. They're getting to the finals. They're all about it. And another year under their belt, hopefully it makes them even better. So, either one, if either one went, it's not going to disappoint me in a way to say, okay, we got Durant, but I am if it's going to be short term. I just like the core and want to let it go a little bit longer personally.
I agree with you on the core. I'd be really reluctant to pull the trigger on that, especially KD's had some injuries. And, he really didn't play that great against the Celtics. I don't think the Celtics had a great defense, but, maybe he's past his prime a little bit. He's coming down the other side of the mountain. I know he could get hurt. Then the whole thing goes down the tubes. But I got to tell you, if I was going to make the trade, I would definitely think about Tatum first. And the thing is, right, at the end of the game, and I'm going to ask the caller this, right, they always give the ball to Tatum. Why? Why doesn't Brown get to take that shot? So Brown's probably thinking, how come this guy's taking a shot? I'm just as good as this guy. You know what I mean? Which is what you alluded to before. Yep. Do you think that you'd rather have the ball in the hands of Brown in some of these clutch situations?
Well, if it's not, go ahead, Carl. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Whether it's because I was kind of pissed off about how the finals went and how much Tatum shrunk. When the KD rumors first came out, I was actually considering, hey, if all it took was Tatum for KD straight up, I would 100% do that. But I just feel like the Celtics wouldn't do that because they view him as like that number one guy. But to be perfectly honest, I would have absolutely played through Jaylen Brown because even though he was also turning the ball over at a lot more than, well, not a lot more than Tatum, but just as much. He didn't exactly shrink in the moment. He was still scoring at a very high level. I'd say he was our best player in the series.
Yeah, and I think you could look at it from if Udoka, I understand that, let's say it was LeBron and LeBron was missing. Do you get away from LeBron? Because it's LeBron. And so the guy's thinking he's going to come out of it and he's going to get it done. So can I think the same way with Tatum? Now, I'm not comparing LeBron to Tatum. Don't think that, people. But what I'm saying is, if Tatum's your number one man to start with, they're thinking he's going to get out of it and he's going to overcome it and he's going to make that clutch shot or that big play down the stretch, as they probably would with a LeBron, with a Harden, with a Durant, some of the great ones right now in the business, to say, hey, let's do it. Now, when do you pull the plug on that? That's the main key. And of course, that's a coach's decision to say, I'm not seeing it. I got to do it different. Let's try Brown, or let's go somewhere else and see what happens. So I just think they're thinking that, Tatum's the guy and that he's going to come out of it. That's what I'm getting out of it.
Now, you're saying, like, if LeBron is missing, you'll go away from him. The thing is in the clutch, generally speaking, guys like LeBron and Larry Bird and Michael Jordan, they don't miss in those situations.
And they want the ball. And they want the ball in their hands.
All right, Ryan, before you go, any quick thoughts on the Red Sox? You think they're squad, right?
Right now, I'd say that they are. Just in the Toronto series alone, you had an opportunity there to really, take control of not the AL East, but at least second place, because the Yankees are well above everyone else. And I heard some people using, like, not having Jarren Durant and Tanner Houck up there as an excuse. I'm not really sold on Tanner Houck as a closer. He's nearly crapped his pants on a number of occasions. I feel like it would have been the same result, really. But it's just really a missed opportunity to get themselves some space in second place.
Well, I just want to remind Chris, this caller, when the Celtics were up 2-1, and everybody was like, we were thinking about getting a cigar ready and all that. I mean, you and I were, a little more realistic than that. We're thinking pretty good. This caller called up and said, I don't know. I'm still nervous about this. I'm not 2-1. I don't know. He was really worried about it. So when he says the Red Sox are squad, we have to, give it some weight. You know what I mean? Because, you said you want to be Debbie Downer, but, hey, you're a realist, right?
Yeah, I try to be a realist as much as humanly possible.
Hey, thank you so much for calling.
Hey, thanks, Ryan.
No problem. Great talking to you guys again.
All right. 774-762-6234. We're circling around. We got Celtics. I wanted to mention to you about the Bruins, too. Cam Neely apparently had a discussion with Pasternak and is now saying, well, the conversation went pretty good, because there was rumblings that maybe Pasternak wants to get out of here. Of course, Neely can say that. He's trying to put a positive face on it. But, I got to tell you, they're going to have to move to the younger team. Pasternak is still young. Obviously, you got the young goaltender, young defenseman McAvoy, Swayman, as we mentioned, the goaltender. So you have to build around that. Even though Pasternak has some weaknesses defensively and he throws the puck around in the neutral zone and gets picked off and all that, those 40 goal scorers are so hard to come by that I really want to see him there if they can possibly do it.
I absolutely agree. I would want him going nowhere. I mean, if I got to work on his defense, I'll work on his defense. And with a new head coach now, maybe there will be a little bit of a change and a little bit of, intensity to the point where, you're still my best scorer, but hey, listen, you still got to play this end as well, as much as Bergeron does when he's in there. And you see what it does to Bergeron. It really wears you down when you're that two-way player. Not only are you doing it offensively, but you're doing it defensively. So Pasta's young. As you said, there's not many elite goal scorers. He's a sniper. I keep him in there. And unless you get a tremendous package deal that you really need to have that incorporates a lot of depth for their team, I wouldn't do it. I like Pasta. I think he's fine right where he is. And so let's see what this new organization with this coaching staff does with this team.
Well, the NHL draft is tonight, as a matter of fact, but the Bruins don't pick until 54th. And there was some talk that maybe we'd try to trade up. But I'll tell you, the way the Bruins drafts have gone over the last few years, I wouldn't necessarily trade up unless they really had a guy that they had their eyes on that they think they could get if they went up. You know what I mean? A particular guy. But I don't know. I mean, right now, you're just going to have to build around some of those younger players that they have, I think. I'm not so sure that making a trade up in the draft right here without having to give up a lot is really the way to go.
No, and remember what they lost their number one pick because they went go get Lindholm. So
Yeah.
that's the guy that you want to really hype up for these next 4 or 5 years and say McAvoy and Lindholm. These are my two cornerstones as defensemen, and say, hey, I'm going to build off of those guys because I got rid of my number one to keep this guy. And you know what? Lindholm is supposed to be a number one pick. So they did what they thought was best. So look at it as this draft is we have Hampus Lindholm. That's who we grabbed.
Yeah, and, again, looking back at the Bruins, they had a lot of injuries in the playoffs. They did go 7 games with a very good Carolina team. And, Lindholm was out for a while. McAvoy was out for a game or so. I mean, if they had the full complement of players, and we talked about it during the season, the only way they have any chance of going anyway if they have no injuries. Well, a lot of teams can say that, but some teams have more depth than the Bruins had. But losing Lindholm in a few of those early games, that really hurt them badly.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, they're cornerstones of your defense. And when you make moves, now you've got McAvoy on the right, Lindholm on the left. Whether you put them together, whether you mix and match, power play, shorthanded, need those guys giving you 25 to 28 minutes a game. Those guys are what you need, and build around with Swayman, with those two, and then work your way forward and see what happens.
All right, 774-762-6234. You'd like to join the discussion. And, we're really very happy that we have sponsors here on Santos on Sports. We really appreciate that. Well, Chris Santos is going to be involved in a tennis match this weekend. And, hey, it's going to be a lot of fun, and you have a chance to represent the area and one of our sponsors.
Yeah, the Lakeville Athletic Club has themselves a lot of teams going up to Western Mass this weekend. And play in what we call the 7-0, the 8-0, and the 9-0 mixed doubles championships. So it's the sectionals that we're playing, which means if we win, we represent New England and the Massachusetts team, and we go off to the Nationals. So it's a big weekend for us where we'll be playing teams also from Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, all the New England teams. And if we can win that one, that would be great. And so I'm representing them. Last time I went, you could see right there was 2018. So looking hopefully you have to take a couple of years off, but we have. Now we're looking to get back. So that's our sponsor, Lakeville Athletic Club. Their pool is open. So if you want to join there, you can use their pool. They got a great in-ground pool. They're just starting their pickleball outdoor season right next door at the Ted Williams Club. They got it for beginners, intermediates, advanced players. Call the club, 508-947-8088. They'll fill you in on wherever you're at, and they will tell you who to get in contact with. Make it over there and play some pickleball in the outdoors. And then, obviously, when the winter season comes up, it starts to get a little tough with the weather. Start playing back at the club on the indoors. So a lot going on over there at the Lakeville Athletic Club. So looking forward to it. Leave tomorrow and get ready to play on the weekend.
All right, so when is your first match?
Saturday morning, 9:00 over in Ludlow, Massachusetts. That's my 9-0 team. Some of the other teams are playing in Enfield, Connecticut. Others are playing in East Hartford, Connecticut. So we're all kind of staying over in the Springfield area, and then we shoot our way out to where we're supposed to play.
Okay, let's go back to the phones and say hello. You are on Santos on Sports. Hello. Okay, please call back. Looks like we got disconnected. 774-762-6234. Well, that's really great, Chris. We wish you all the best. Now, what do you do to prepare for something like that? I mean, I'm sure you're playing a little bit, but obviously you don't want to run yourself into the ground before you go in on Saturday. What's the preparation?
No, well, we have, as soon as I'm done with our podcast, I'm actually going over and have a little team practice. And so there'll be about 8 of us, and we'll just kind of mix and match with different partners, do some drills a little bit, then we play a little bit. We don't go all out, but, we try to make it fun and at the same time a little competitive. try to get that edge and get ready to go. We've all done it for a while, so we all know it's just to kind of keep the tools sharp. And so that's what we'll be doing this evening.
Okay, let's go back to the phones again here. Hello, you're on Santos on Sports.
Good morning, gentlemen, or
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing good here. Listen, I tune into Santos on Sports, and I got to hear a Joe Biden reference. What is going on with the world today?
Yeah, unfortunately, you heard that one, huh?
True with your listener. What you doing?
We don't do politics.
I got you.
So what's on your mind?
Well, talk real briefly about KD and the Celtics and
Yes.
and the Red Sox, if you will.
Sure.
Listen, KD, that is a big no. He's a diva. He brings a lot of drama. He doesn't stay off social media. I want nothing to do with Kevin Durant, especially trading a 34-year-old for a 24-year-old. Now, I heard your comments, Paul. I don't think they would ever do it. But, yeah, I would give up Tatum before I give up Brown, But, listen, Brad's a smart guy. He's not going to mortgage the future for a possible championship next year. Besides that, I got people saying, well, they can win it next year if they get KD. And I go, guys, they were in the finals this year without KD. Yep. You got to assume Brown and Tatum are going to come back better and hungrier. And they're a better, deeper team. They've got scoring on the bench, which they didn't have last year. The Brogdon trade, I thought, was a steal. So why can't they win it next year, without KD?
Okay.
No, I have to agree with Mark there. The 10-year difference, number one, is huge. Gallinari, Brogdon coming in. If you've gotten that far last year with this core, why can't you go back to where it is, add a couple of pieces, and get that next banner? I have to agree with Mark on this one. I'm not going to guarantee it that they don't take KD, but I definitely will definitely like the opportunity to see them keep their team the way it is and keep adding those pieces. And I think Brad's done a good job so far in his first year.
Mark, let me ask you this, right? So the devil's advocate argument is, okay, yeah, you are trading a 24-year-old for a 34-year-old, but the 34-year-old has 4 more years on his contract, and the 24-year-old only has 2. So it really isn't the age. It has to do with the contract, number one. Number two, the Celtics were fortunate. They got by Milwaukee without Middleton. They got by Miami. They had some injuries there too. So next year, getting out of the East isn't going to be so easy. But now you throw in Kevin Durant, arguably one of the best players in the league still, and you keep Brown under the example that you and I gave. You got Brogdon there. You still got Marcus Smart. I mean, doesn't that give you a better chance to get back to the finals?
Well, listen, I get Durant's under contract for 4 more years. Brown's only under contract for 2. But again, Durant's going to be 38 at the end of that contract. Now, no telling that he could still be Durant at 38, that's for sure. But, really, who has gotten better in the East other than, Milwaukee's going to bring back Middleton. And, we don't know what's going to happen. Miami may make some moves, but I don't know that. I mean, has the East gotten a lot stronger? I don't see any reason. If you look at the finals, or really the Miami series and the finals, the bench, I think they got, after Milwaukee, I think they were just burnt out, and they cut the rotation down to 6 or 7, and you got to the point, and we talked about this, they got no scoring, and the bench wasn't, Grant Williams was putting up 0 points. Derek White, who everybody thought was the next best thing, and he's a solid player, don't get me wrong, but he's coming in with 3, 4, 5 points. Gallinari can come in, and he can stick to 3, which they didn't have consistently off the bench. I think, again, I don't know how they're going to play this, but if it were me, I'd stay with Smart and Horford in the starting 5 and have Brogdon coming off the bench. I think he would be more open to that role than Smart would be. I think Smart would take that as a knock that they put him on the bench again. And I think you got Brogdon can score 19, 20 points off the bench. And now you've got Grant Williams and Derek White, who don't have to be the two key players off the bench. They can be part of a group. And I think they're a lot better than they were a year ago. And again, remains to be seen, Paul, we talked about this. Is Tatum the A guy down the clutch that can hit those shots? We don't know if he's got that DNA, but I got to believe he's going to come back stronger and hungrier. I got to believe that.
Mark,
I think they're better and don't mess with anything else.
Mark, let me ask you this. Can you see Brogdon start and have Smart as a shooting guard, then Brown, Tatum, and Williams, and be in the lineup together and have that, and then maybe something else comes off the bench? Or does it have to be Brogdon as the sixth or maybe Smart as the sixth? Could you see them working together? Remember, Smart was supposed to be a shooting guard.
And again, this speaks to the depth that Udoka's got some options to play with the lineup. But, I think, listen, if you've got, and whether they start or not, I think you'll see this lineup. But when you're talking Brown, Tatum, Brogdon, Smart, and Williams, at some point you're going to see that five, and I think that's a hell of a five. The question is, if that's your starting five, obviously Horford's coming off the bench, right. And you've got Gallinari, I would say the bench isn't as strong, and you're still going to be reliant on those five. I think you got to have either Smart or Brogdon on the bench to have that's somebody you can rely on coming in, whether it's for scoring or ball handling or defense. So I think the bench. I think that the five is potent, but I think the bench is a little weaker if you now have White, Williams, Horford, and Gallinari as opposed to either Smart or Brogdon coming off the bench.
So in that placement, then, so if Smart goes on the bench or Brogdon, who would you put in as the other starter? Would that be Horford, even though he's up there in age? Would that be Gallinari? Would that be White? What route would you go? Because I think, Smart's supposed to be a shooting guard. He's not even supposed to be a point guard. And I don't think the Celtics have had one that they've really liked when they've had Walker and Irvin, and they never seem to get what they need. I'm hoping that this Brogdon would be like the point guard and work around that. So I'm curious to see how Udoka handles this crew.
It's good. That's a good point. And you listen. The one thing that remains to be seen is, did we see the best of Horford, and he takes a big nosedive this year, does the fact that we got Gallinari now, and hopefully Robert Williams is healthier, and then you got more growth from Grant Williams that you don't need 35 minutes a game from Horford. I think the sweet spot for Horford to continue at the play that he was is if we can give him 25 to 28 minutes a game instead of 35 minutes. And I think we ought to be able to do that, whether it's off the bench or in the starting five. But I just can't see Horford continuing to play at a high level, playing 35-plus minutes a game at his age. That's going to be a tough ask.
Mike, give us your take on the Red Sox first half so far. What do you see from them that you like, that you don't like, and maybe what they can do to get better?
Well, I mean, listen, I've been suspect of Bloom, and I've been suspect of their pitching primarily. I'm going to sit here and tell you, at some point, I think the lack of power in the lineup is going to be a problem. It's hard to say, hey, guys, they're middle of the pack in home runs, and that's a problem, but they're a top 5 in runs scored. So, they're scoring runs. That's all good and well. But at some point, they're going to need somebody that can hit a 3-run home run in the 7th inning. And I got to tell you, I wasn't a huge Renfroe guy, but he played decent right field and he hit 30-plus home runs. You got rid of Schwarber and Renfroe, who combined for 60-plus home runs, and you replaced them with Dahlbeck and Jackie Bradley, who don't hit home runs. So I think that was a critical error in the off season. And here we go. Look at it now. Schwarber's got 25 home runs, I think, right now.
He sure does. He's been crushing the ball.
So
I think there was a problem. The power. And then the other thing is, what happened? And I don't know. Anybody knows the answer to this? What the hell happened to Matt Barnes? That guy was lights out, made the All-Star team, and just I don't know if he'll ever be good again. I don't know. Like that was a huge issue coming out of the pen. Is Matt Barnes isn't good anymore.
They talk about confidence, and I don't think, I'm making it, or I may be making it oversimplistic, but I remember watching him in that All-Star game, and he got bombed in the All-Star game, So I thought to myself, geez, I hope that doesn't screw him up, because sometimes a guy, he'll go in a home run hitting contest, and that kind of messes him up. And I know I'm being a little oversimplistic, but after he got bombed in that All-Star game, it was kind of strange. He was never any good after that. I don't know what happened.
I just think he lost it mentally.
I don't know what happened, but he's clearly not any good anymore. And obviously we're going to get Sale back. How is he going to pitch? You don't know. I mean, you got to hope he'll be at least. He may not be dominant, but you got to at least hope he's going to be. I mean, he's got to be better than Rich Hill, right?
Yeah, he's getting up there in age too. He's up in the 33, 34 range, if I'm not mistaken. But let me ask you this: you think the Red Sox will make the wild card?
I do. I mean, again, there's a lot of things that have to happen, obviously, but once we got through it, this was an extremely wet and cold early spring. You could see once we got into mid-May and certainly June, the offense really changed. And and the starting pitching's not been terrible. I mean, if you look at Evaldi, and I know he's on the injured list now, but Evaldi and Pivetta, their records should be way better than where they are, because they lost a bunch of games early in the season when the team wasn't scoring runs. But there's so much parity in Major League Baseball. I mean, when you look at teams are all in the East. I mean, and there's, 6 or 7 games. So, we'll see what happens this next stretch with New York and Tampa and New York and Toronto. And, listen, I don't know, 500 against this upcoming schedule may not be good enough.
Right.
But we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping to go to Sunday night's game. My buddy stiffed me with tickets, so now I gotta try to. My buddy he was giving me comp tickets, and I got screwed. So now I'm trying to figure out what the hell to do. My kid wants to go to the game.
Oh, you might be paying scalper prices.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping all your listeners on Santos on Sports. Anybody got a hookup? Let me know.
All right, hey, thank you so much for the call.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Maybe we'll see you over the weekend.
I gotta enjoy listening to the rest of the show.
All right, thank you so much. All right, 774-762-6234. You can chime in here on Santos on Sports, and we're talking sports here. We're bouncing around to different sports, primarily the Red Sox tonight, but you can talk about anything you'd like. We did some Celtics and some Bruins as well. But, last night, Chris, Brian Bello pitched. He's like the new hot prospect. And now I have to admit, a lot of times I'll throw the game on in the 4th or 5th inning and say, let's see how they're doing tonight,
Sure.
and kind of watch it from there, busy doing stuff around the house and so forth. But last night I particularly turned the game on right at the beginning because, there was a lot of hype about the kid. Maybe they overhyped it a little bit. I'm not sure. But he really didn't look that great. Now, again, he looked like he had some jitters. He works really fast. I mean, he was like a pitching machine. He was like, boom, boom, boom. You just get the ball, throw it, which is fine. If you're watching the game, you like to see the game move along. But he gave up 1 run every inning. So his ERA is 9, 4 runs in 4 innings, 6 hits, 2 strikeouts, 3 walks. A little wild. A couple of balls slipped out of his hand and stuff like that. And really was mediocre, I would say. You know what I mean? So, again, that's only 1 game. I'm not sure he's going to be able to help him this year, based on what I saw last night. And it wasn't really Now, somebody said he could be the next Pedro Martinez. Well, gee, you don't want to put that on the kid that he's the next Pedro Martinez. But, 97-mile-an-hour fastball, it was all right. The changeup wasn't that great. The slider wasn't that great. The curveball, he hung it right in the middle of the plate. So definitely some development to go with Brian Bello, I thought.
Yeah, I've been very questionable about the Red Sox pitching staff from day one. Evaldi, you come back with Pavetta, Hill, Walker. You got Whitlock, Winchkowski. Now this young man Bello here too. Obviously, they got to get a healthy Sale back. That's the first step. Got to get him back in there. You got to get Evaldi back healthy again as well. Walker's been pretty good. Got to make sure that he's okay. Right there has to tell you that I got to go into a series. And when I do, who are my top 3 pitches in that kind of a series? And I want to be able to have something like that so teams can go, wow, hey, listen, I'm scared of these 3 guys coming in. These are good pitches. And right now I don't see it from the Red Sox. And I've questioned their pitching staff right from day one. So unless that improves, I actually don't see the Red Sox hanging on. I think Toronto has a chance, maybe even as much as Tampa has a chance to overpass them. They got to make sure that pitching staff, I think they'll be okay offensively. As Mark said, they score runs. They find a way to score runs. It may not be that 3-run homer, and they don't have that big guy, and they'll get some from Devers and Bogarts. But that pitching staff will have to be in complete control to make sure they advance to the wild card. If not, I can see the other 2 teams passing them.
Now, hopefully that is not the case because, sticking into the wild card and getting into that 3-game series, I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And, New York can finish 10, 15 games ahead of you. And if you can get hot at the right time and pull it together, anything can happen. But, again, all the areas that we're talking about, the starting pitching, the bullpen, we don't have a shutdown closer like the Yankees have. We don't have all these home run hitters. So it looks like that it's going to be difficult. But I wanted to ask you about Chris Sale. You talked about the pitching. Chris Sale pitched in Worcester last night. And I don't know if you saw the clip, but he didn't really pitch that great. He was okay. Nope. He's kind of mediocre. So he gets in the dugout and somebody is rolling their video, their iPhone. Hey, now in today's world, everybody's got an iPhone rolling now. So he goes in the dugout and it looks like there was an old monitor on the wall. He starts hammering it. And then he ripped it out of the wall and threw it to the ground and basically had like a temper tantrum meltdown. So I'm thinking, holy crap, this guy is supposed to be coming back to the big club. He goes down to Worcester. He didn't pitch that well. Now he's ripping stuff up. And now he's like, well, then after he had a press conference and he said something like, well, I just got to fine tune some things and all that. What is telling me is that he didn't think he was any good. He thought he stunk. He's ticked off that he stunk. He's aggravated. He's frustrated. And that's why he acted the way that he did. Certainly not a good sign.
No, it's not. But at the same time, he's a competitor and he wants to get back to the elite status that he used to be. He wants to help this team. He wants to be up with the big ball club. It's been a long time that he's been rehabbing, injury, trying to find it. 72 pitches. That's a lot of pitches for Chris Sale. So they really want to extend him out to see if he's got it left to bring him back up, and he wants to get back up there. So, yeah, all right. He wasn't happy, and he did what he did inside the locker room. And we've seen other ball players do it. We see them grab bats and hit it all around and do different things. So he's not happy with his performance. He might not be happy with his rehabbing. He might not be happy with, the way he's throwing it or his mechanics, which he's probably been trying to work on and get better so the arm doesn't hurt, or trying different ways to get to the big ball club. And it didn't work out for him last night. Let's hope not for the Red Sox that this is a setback. Let's hope it's that he can regain his form and get back up to the big club because they need him. There's no doubt they need him to go along with Evaldi.
Competitors are going to blow a gasket here and there. Yeah. Remember Big Poppy taking the bat and smashing the phone in the dugout and whatever. And, Reggie Jackson, I think one time took a bunch of bats and threw them on the field. so that happened. So maybe we shouldn't overreact. But on the other hand, Chris Sale is probably on the other side of his peak.
Correct.
He may not be in his prime. He's always had these injuries. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering, I remember when the Red Sox were using him, and you were lucky. He was very, very much good in the first, like, say, 4 innings. You really couldn't get much out of him after that. So, I mean, that would help if he could be the old Chris Sale for 4 innings. But then again, now what do you do in the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth in that middle spot where, you really don't have a great bullpen?
Well, no, but today's generation, you get 5, maybe 6, and you're happy because that's what most teams
Right.
do
Mhm.
nowadays in MLB. So if they can get 4, 5, and 6, and it's a solid 4, 5, and 6, well, then you take your chances with your bullpen, or you try to make some moves to bolster that bullpen and get better along as the season goes on. So maybe they can do that. But it's better than going out there and only doing 2 or 3 innings, throw all that, and get whacked for 6 runs, 7 runs. So they don't want that. So they got to make sure they may have the right mechanics, get him back mentally and physically, and hopefully he can help this team out.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they could do something with him like, Terry Francona did with Miller a few years ago. I remember he was like the shutdown middle reliever. And it was almost something that I didn't really see it much before Francona started doing it, especially in the playoffs and the World Series, but it worked great. The starter would go like, 3, 4 innings, and they're just starting to get used to the starter. And in comes this lefty, throwing all this gas and everything. And it's like, holy smokes, what's going on here? I wonder if Sale would even accept a role like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory, and you have to develop it on when you're used to being a starter. How are you coming out of the pen? Now, don't get me wrong. We've seen Chris Sale, I believe, in playoffs come out in a 7th or 8th inning and give you an inning or two when needed to win a big game or hold on to a big game. So it has happened, and it's a possibility where, hey, we need a left-hander. We're okay with our 5 starters, but our middle relief is getting destroyed. Can you help us with that? Maybe he could take that into a role. Now, I'm not saying they're going to do that, but that's something that, Paul, is a great idea that Franconia came up with, and I think other teams have done it as well. Now, we've seen the Red Sox actually have a pitcher. I think they did it the other day. They had this guy, Davis start. He pitched 2 innings. Then they brought someone else in, and he went 4 or 5. And then they went back and pitched 1 or 2 and got out of the game with a win. So there's another philosophy to do it that way too. And just have to wait and see which Chris Sale brings to the table and what he will accept in his role.
All right, let's go back to the phones. Hello, you are next on Santos on Sports.
Yes, the only thing the Red Sox need to do is bow down to the kings of baseball. That's pinstripes. Pinstripes for life.
Uh-oh. All right, so pinstripes for life. Well, who's won the most World Series in this since the year 2000 in this century?
I get it. No, I get it. I know he's going to go there. But listen, I'm not – yes, the standings are looking great for the Yankees. But I'm not falling asleep on the Red Sox because I believe the Red Sox are up there in the wild card standings. I think they're part of one of the top 2 teams. So I know the season is not over yet, but if the Red Sox are still in the wild card race, they could very well be in the playoffs. And the Yankees could see them if everything stays the same and the Yankees continue playing strong and they win a division. So I'm not taking it for granted as a Yankees fan. Because it's true what they say. It doesn't matter how you start. It matters how you finish in baseball.
Yeah, my question to you is, as a Yankee fan right now, would you not accept the Yankees at least making the American League Division Championship or getting to the World Series, what they've done so far? Because they've been in complete control of the American League East and all of Major League Baseball. Would you think it as a bad year if they, let's say they go to playoffs, the first team they play, they bow out right away?
To answer your question, I'll also answer with basketball as well. As we know, the Warriors had like one of the record season, winning over 70 games, and they lost the finals. With baseball, it would kind of be disappointing in a way, very I'm not gonna put any jinx on it because it's just baseball. I'm superstitious with all this.
Well,
But
let me ask you a question. If the Red Sox managed to get past the wild card and ended up in a 7-game series against New York, I mean, looking at it right now on paper, doesn't look like the Red Sox could take them.
But here's the thing with baseball, you just don't know what the hell can happen. It's just how baseball is. Like, for example, the Mets came back on Cinco de Mayo against the Phillies. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen in baseball. But what I'm concerned about is Aaron Judge's status as a Yankee. Yes, he exercised his option to avoid arbitration, I believe, but he's going to be a free agent, and I just don't understand for the life of me as to why they have not given him his contract. He wants to be in pinstripes for the rest of his career.
All right, we're going to think about that, Chris. I mean, sometimes the player is asking for, open up the vault and pour the gold out. But on the other hand, what do you think about that? I mean, should the Yankees be making a better aggressive effort to keep Judge?
Well, take a look at his stats for this year and what Aaron Judge has done to open up the bank and say, I have potential to hit 60 or more home runs right now in baseball, which would be quite impressive of what he's done so far. Imagine if he keeps that going. So he's putting on a statement, Paul, to say, hey, listen, you don't do it. There's another team out there that wants these 60 homers or what I've given so far. So he's putting on a show and he's letting people know that he is the real deal. So it'll be interesting to see if the Yankees step up to the plate or will somebody else say, hey, I'll take a shot on this guy.
As a Yankees fan, you'd be really disappointed to see him in another uniform.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I would be very disappointed because, look, he's still a baby. He's a young guy. He's keeping himself in shape. You hardly see him get injured. So it's like he's taking his work ethic very seriously. And look, if Boston were to come up to turn around and say, listen, we'll give you the max that you want. If New York doesn't offer it, he'll end up in a Red Sox uniform, and that will give me tremendous anxiety.
I like to see him up there with that green monster over there, and he looked good in a Red Sox uniform. And ESPN is already putting him in different uniforms. I can't take it. I cannot take it. All
but
right.
again, a baseball, it's a business sport.
Well,
and as a player, you have to make a business decision. But when you have a player like him say, I want to be a Yankee for the rest of my career, you have to lock down those players. You have to lock it down. And then that way you can move on from this because he's going to start questioning, is this organization really committed to me as if me being committed as a player to the Yankees organization? This is a two-way street. If the late, the one who's passed away, if he was still alive,
Steinbrenner.
Yes,
Steinbrenner.
If he was still alive, God rest his soul, that man would have been signed a long time ago. Just like how they signed Jeter to a long-term contract. They took care of Jeter right away because they knew the future.
Mm-hmm.
They knew what he was going to bring. You just cannot let these players like this just walk.
And you're hearing this from a true Yankee fan. Hey, we're winding it down. We really appreciate your call.
Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, so definitely a caller there, a baseball fan that bleeds the pinstripes.
Well, I'll tell you this, Paul. For a team and organization as the Boston Red Sox and their fan base, there's a lot of Yankee fan base in this area. I can tell you that. There are tons of Yankee fans around, the South Coast. And so it's always that major rivalry between one another, goes back and forth. It's a 4-game series. It's in the middle of, July. It's starting to heat up in the baseball. But as I said, I think this July separates the Red Sox, what they need to accomplish and get done. 4 with the Yankees, 3 with Tampa, 3 with the Yankees, and 3 with Toronto. This 4 series right here really is going to tell you if the Sox have anything, whether it's the starting pitching, the bullpen, they're going to find out their weaknesses and their strengths, I think, from this 4 series that they have coming up with the American League East. So
and it all starts tonight with the Red Sox and the Yankees. Garrett Cole on the mound for New York. The ace, 7-2 with a 2.99 ERA. Josh Winkowski, 3-2 with a 3.12 ERA. And then we'll see how it goes for the rest of this stretch that Chris alluded to. And next time, Chris, we have a comment here because we got to get to this next time. I don't know if you want to address this because of winding down, but Mac Jones, he's all jacked up now. You know, he's not like the Pillsbury Doughboy anymore.
Yeah,
and he looks like he's in fantastic shape. Football is just around the corner. What do we think about the jacked Mac?
Well, it's a good topic. And maybe when we start to get to that topic, we could get to our guest speaker on that one. And maybe she can help us realize how buff Mac really is and what he's been doing in the offseason. But I hear he's been really throwing the ball a lot better, a lot more arm strength, and using the field a lot better so far in the workouts. So maybe we can get our guest to talk about that as some other things about the Patriots.
And it's a surprise guest that we got coming up in a few weeks. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Fun.
All right. We'd like to thank our sponsors, attorney John Seed, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. And you can go to his website at johnseedlaw.com. Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street, Fall River. Citywide Glass with 3 locations to serve you at 425 State Road in Dartmouth. Additional locations in Taunton and Fall River. And Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, where you can enjoy tennis, pickleball, and more. And don't forget, Mr. Chris Santos competing and representing the Lakeville Athletic Club this weekend. So you're looking forward to that.
Yeah, I leave tomorrow and got to play first thing on Saturday. And so looking forward to it. And hopefully we come out by Sunday with a win and represent New England and make our way to the Nationals when that comes up. If not, well, we gave it our best shot.
Mixed doubles, right?
Mixed doubles, yes.
All right. So are you as much a competitor as Chris Sale? You know, like if this doesn't go your way, might you have an explosion?
I'm not going to be breaking my rackets. I'm not going to be tearing some things off the wall. I know that I'll either be mad at myself, depending on how it went, or if I played well and we still didn't win, that's okay too. I kind of go by what my play was, and then I take it from there.
Not to use a cliche, but Chris is going to leave it all out on the court.
On the court. Try to leave it the best I can. So see how it goes over the weekend. Looking forward to it.
We can guarantee that you're going to leave everything out on the court.
That will guarantee.
All right. Thank you very much. We had some great callers today. And for people commenting in the comment section over here, really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. And go Red Sox. Let's see if they can, really make a move here against the big-time New York Yankees starting this weekend with a 4-game series. For Chris Santos, I'm Paul Santos. Have a great weekend.